Hey everybody, you have tuned into a special edition of But Is It Power Pop? Why is this a special edition? I'm going to tell you. It's a special edition because I'm celebrating the release of the digitally remastered and expanded editions of Badfinger's two albums that they recorded in 1974 for the Warner Brothers label. That's right, self-titled and Wish You Were Here. So, to celebrate the release of those, I will talk about those, yes, but I decided to rank the Badfinger albums from least favorite to favorite. Now, Badfinger is one of the most popular and iconic power pop bands of all time, and I love their albums. Let me say that to begin with. I love their albums, but music geeks like to put things in some kind of order because that's what music geeks do. They put albums in order. They rank things. And that's what I'm going to do here. So in descending order, I'm going to show you my least favorite to favorite Badfinger albums. And I'll talk a little bit about them. And I'm sure a lot of you are going to disagree with me and I'm going to ruffle some feathers. But hey, this is just my opinion. It's not fact. And it's not fake news. It's opinion. I'm going to start with my least favorite Badfinger album. And this is actually an album title that I'm quite familiar with because people have called me this for years. That's right, I'm referring to Ass. Badfinger Ass. This is actually my least favorite Badfinger album, although I love a lot of it. Tommy's When I Say, Icicles by Joey, I Can Love You by Joey, Blind Owl. There's a lot of great songs on here. Pete's Apple of My Eye. But the problem is this was like a long delayed follow-up to Straight Up. Now, everybody knows Straight Up is just a fab album. Just top of the pile. Is the top of mine? You'll find out. So this was a very disappointing follow-up. Still a great album. Well, actually, no, still a very good album. I do love it because it's Badfinger. But if this album sort of got deleted or I didn't have it in my collection, I wouldn't cry as much. But I don't have to cry at all because I own it. So this is my least favorite. One notch up from that, we're going to hit something that's going to hit some nerves here. People are going to get a little upset about this one. Magic Christian Music. You know why Magic Christian Music is so low on my list? And now remember, this is all, this is like saying, do you prefer blondes or brunettes? It's like there's a plus in everything and there's a minus in everything. Crazy. But Badfinger, Magic Christian Music. To me, I think the reason that it doesn't resonate with me is because it's basically mostly the Ivies album. Even though Joey is listed in the notes on the back of the album when it first came out, he's not pictured there. That's just Pete, Tommy, and Mike. And I kind of don't think he's on the album to begin with. I think he joined the band after the album was recorded. In fact, even inside there, you get Ron Griffiths instead of Joey Molland. So this isn't necessarily my favorite. It's got great songs. I mean, this has got Come and Get It, which was written and produced by Paul McCartney. This has Crimson Ship, which is one of my favorites. This has got Rock of Ages, which is a Tommy rocker. Tommy rocker. Yeah, you got to love Tommy rockers because later he didn't have so many rockers. So Tommy rockers are fun. But this is one up from Ass, but I still love it. And I still play lots of songs off this album. But, and it's weird because you got Mike, Tommy, and Pete. You got Joey listed, but then there's a song sung by Ron, which is from the Ivies album. So it kind of didn't make sense when it came out. So it seemed like they just sort of slapped this together and released it. But it's still a great album. I want to say that. But just a notch above Ass. Notch above that, an album I love to death, but I have to rank it and I have to be honest about this. Okay? That's right. The self-titled album. This is a fantastic album. It's the furthest thing away from power pop that or you're familiar with Badfinger. This is an album where they really branched out and tried to do a lot. There's country rock and there's There's, Matted Spam sounds like it could be a Doobie Brothers track. And, a lot of great stuff. I mean, I love this album to death. I do. There's nothing wrong with this album. Again, ranking least favorite to favorite. So this edition, this is the expanded edition, features the entire album, features a previously unreleased song from the sessions, which is another Tommy rocker. Tommy rockers are always good. And then it features like early working mixes of most of the tracks from the album. And the early working mixes, you'll listen to like Lonely You. It's the same versions of the songs, but like Lonely You doesn't have the lead guitar that they added later, or maybe a couple songs have extra vocal parts that they eventually mixed out, or they maybe added later. So it's great. It sounds wonderful. It's fantastic. Everybody should own it. But that's what I'm going to say about this. Self-titled. Next up, again, people. Spaz, what are you talking about? Airwaves. I love this album. Boy, when this album came out in 1979, I was over the moon. Because I was accepting of the fact that Tommy and Joey were going to move on without Pete. A lot of people say Badfinger is not Badfinger without Pete Ham. And for the most part, that is true. But I love the fact that Tommy and Joey wanted to put their songs out there. And I think that they did a great job here. It doesn't sound like the Badfinger of old, because they came up with a great set of songs, and then they had a producer, I think it was David Malloy, come in, and he was producing a lot of stuff for Elektra. I think he produced like Eddie Rabbit and stuff like that. So they kind of smoothed out the edges and made it a more commercial album. Like the song Sympathy's got a quasi-disco beat to it. But, I don't say that like, listen to it and you're going to, turn on the disco ball and stuff, but little different for the band. But I think that this is a great record. I honestly do. Love Is Gonna Come at Last is one of Joey's greatest songs. Lost Inside Your Love and Sail Away are two of Tommy's best songs ever. Look Out California, Tommy Rocker, another great song. And overall, this album is just Come Down Hard, I'm not a big fan of, because I'm not, maybe it was a little too heavy for me at the time, so I've never really warmed to it. But everything else here, Joey sounds great. He's got a great batch of songs. Tommy sounds great. He's got a great batch of songs. So, yes, I think that this right here is an album that Badfinger fans should own. Here's another one. Now, everyone talks about power pop. I think this album, when it came out, it was overlooked because, again, no Pete. But this is just a stellar collection of songs. And this album called Say No More. Peter Max did the album cover there. He's responsible for lots of great art, including albums that I'm trying to avoid mentioning a certain band that they've always been compared to, only because I know that was sort of a thorn in their side for many years, but, we know them as the Fab Four. But this was, I think, a great collection of songs. Badfinger had moved on musically, and they were adapting to what was going on around them. And if you're into, like, the power pop of the late 70s and early 80s, this is absolute pure power pop. This is more power pop than most of their other albums. A lot of people need to go back and listen to this album again. It's just a stellar collection of songs. Sure, like the first track, I Got You, is sort of has a rockabilly vibe to it, but hey, that's what was going on there. But it kicks right out of that and into some, great pop. Some of Joey's greatest pop moments are on this album. And you need to just sort of separate. Maybe if Joey and Tommy had gone and recorded under a different band name, these two albums would be more respected. But I think that this right here is actually my favorite of the two. In fact, obviously it is, because it ranked a little higher. So I think that you should go out and check that out. Now let's get into some what everyone considers classic Badfinger. This is an album called No Dice. Boy, is this an absolute pleasure to listen to. This is the album with No Matter What. This is the album with the original version of Without You that Nilsson heard and later recorded and turned into a massive hit. I won't mention Mariah Carey or anybody else who's recorded it, but this is an absolutely stellar album. I believe most of it was produced by Jeff Emmerich, the late Jeff Emmerich, and No Matter What, I believe, was produced by Mal Evans. This has got some bonus tracks on it as well. The CD version does. And you really, I think that everyone out there agrees that this definitely is a great album, so I won't blather on too much about that. And now we're going to get to the two albums. I've got two albums left. Which is my favorite Badfinger album? My absolute favorite? You know, this is all really good. But this is not my favorite. This is my second favorite. Are you ready? Straight up. This is the album that probably everybody has on the top of their list. This is the album with Day After Day and Baby Blue on it. And yes, this is an album. I remember just nearly crying when you know, Name of the Game and it's just so many great songs on here. Sweet Tuesday Morning, Joey's Sweet Tuesday Morning is fantastic. And this is actually just an absolute stellar album. The bonus tracks on this, though, there was an album that they recorded between No Dice and Straight Up, and I believe it was called like Sing for a Song or something to that effect, and they trashed the album and they started again. And one of the songs that they had from those album sessions was a song called I'll Be the One. Now, a lot of the tracks from that album were re-recorded for Straight Up, but I'll Be the One was not. And what a horrible decision somebody at the label made, because that song is certainly one of their best. And it wasn't even released until, you know, good 20 years later or something when the first CD version of this came out. Or the first, it was actually on this original CD, but now it's on this one. I know that's confusing. That's Music Geek talk. So anyway, but I'll Be the One, which is a bonus track on this CD, is just one of the best songs. If it had been released as an A-side, it would have just been at least top 20, in my opinion. And the fact that it was never even released, not even as a B-side, is just a terrible mistake that the band made. And it just remained in obscurity, but you can get it on this CD here because it's wonderful. So, what is my favorite Badfinger album? Well, which album have I not talked about yet? This is not only my favorite Badfinger album, it's one of my favorite albums of all time. And I believe it is one of the greatest albums of our generation. And I don't joke. I'm saying that. Truth, no smile. I'm saying that. Truth. Wish You Were Here. This is an absolutely fantastic album from start to finish. This, if I have to compare it to that other quartet that was on Apple Records, that started Apple Records, I'm going to say that Wish You Were Here is their Abbey Road. Not only are there a couple song medleys on side 2, which they sound nothing like Abbey Road, but, you know, the same idea. But this album is full of just some incredible material. Producer Chris Thomas, this album was recorded and came out in 1974. That is more than 10 years ago, or more than 20 years ago. It's more than whatever years ago. And I will tell you that the album still sounds fresh. Absolutely. It's a timeless record. It does not date. You can put it on and nobody in your household is going to say, hey, that sounds 1974 to me. No one's even going to notice this album is that many years old. And that's a lot of years old. That's like almost 10 years old. This is an absolutely amazing record. But there's a bonus here. This version has the entire album plus an unreleased track, yet another Tommy rocker, And it has alternate 2018 mixes of most of the album. The alternate 2018 mixes are the same recorded versions that you're familiar with from this album, but they've mixed down some elements that you're familiar with and mixed up the parts that they originally mixed out of the album versions. So you're going to hear stuff like on Just a Chance, there's a horn section in that you can't even hear. There's an amazing version on Gotta Get Out of Here. There's an amazing, during the instrumental passage, where it has horns and stuff, and it sounds almost like it could have been lifted straight off. That little instrumental package could have been lifted straight off of the Sgt. Pepper album. And these things that you never hear, you hear some strings in some parts. And it's now these aren't things that were added later. These are things that were in the original mix that they chose not to use. They mixed it down. And it's a travesty that they did it, but I understand that they did it. But anyway, this here, the digital remaster and expanded version, needs to be in your collection. Not only is it a great Badfinger album, the best Badfinger album, it's one of the best albums of our generation, one of the best power pop albums, one of the best rock albums, one of the best Beatles influenced albums. Whatever you want to put it in, just don't put it under like one of the best Rod Stewart albums, because it's not Rod Stewart. It's Badfinger. So that is, you need to go out and you need to get the remasters of both these, and you need to get the remaster, if you don't already have it, of Straight Up and No Dice and Say No More and Airwaves, and I already talked about Badfinger, and Magic Christian Music and Ass. So I just want to remind you at the end of this that you need to rush out and get the digital remasters of Badfinger and Wish You Were Here, because they are fab and they are gear and they are expanded and they sound great and you need to own them. And in fact, I recommend you to buy this to every member of your family and all your friends for Christmas, because this is the ultimate album. So that's it. Anyway, thank you. Hope you enjoyed this edition of But Is It Power Pop? And I hope you didn't yell at your screen too much because you were disagreeing with me. But that's okay, because opinions are opinions, right? Anyway, that's it from me here at But Is It Power Pop? Thanks for hanging out, and we'll smell you later.